Thank you. Distinguished guests, friends of Indonesia, friends of U.S.-Indonesia relations, welcome to tonight's USINDO 24th Annual Gala Dinner. It tells you something right there, how long we've been around. Our annual galas bring together distinguished Indonesians and Americans who care about Indonesia and U.S.-Indonesia relations, to be informed about current U.S.-Indonesia issues and shared interests, as well as for our community of the government sector, the private sector, and the civil society in both countries to devote our collective energies to topics this year. We all recognize that many of these issues are too large and complex to be handled by governments alone and depend upon private sector and civil society engagement as well. The two governments themselves recognize this in the documents establishing the strategic partnership under which the two governments and now the community of civil society and private sector engage. Building and strengthening this informed U.S.-Indonesia community and bringing about needed actions is what USINDO is all about. USINDO is honored to bring together and welcome tonight a spectacular group of people, one of the best ever. Our guest of honor and featured speaker, the Honorable Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs of the Republic of Indonesia, General Luhut Panjaitan. Pak Luhut. Thank you so much for giving us the honor of your presence as our guest of honor this evening. We're delighted to give you a forum to share your views with an audience who is keenly interested in what you have to say and in your vision for Indonesia. We will be welcoming Pak Luhut more elaborately later in the evening. Our U.S. guest of honor tonight is Representative Ted Yoho, Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Subcommittee on Asia and the Pacific. We met actually in the U.S. Ambassador's residence in Jakarta in February when he was out to promote U.S.-Indonesia trade and investment. Chairman Yoho, we welcome you and Mrs. Yoho tonight and thank you. Our Indonesian special guest speaker needs hardly any introduction. Indonesia's distinguished Minister of Finance, Her Excellency Sri Mulyani Indrawati and Pak Tani. Thank you so much for coming again. And we'll also be hearing much more about her later in the program. We welcome our senior U.S. Executive Branch guest speaker, the Honorable John Rood, Under-Secretary of Defense for Policy. He is the principal advisor to the Secretary of Defense and National Security Policy Official within the Department of Defense. Welcome, Secretary Rood. This evening, our U.S. special guest, the Honorable Manisha Singh, Assistant Secretary for Economic and Business Affairs, is unable to attend due to a last-minute issue. She will be represented by her very able and capable Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for Economic and Business Affairs, Brian McFeeters, very knowledgeable on Indonesia, formerly Deputy Chief of Mission in Indonesia, a three-time server in Indonesia in the Foreign Service. Brian, thank you very much for coming. We also warmly welcome the Honorable Indonesian Minister of Communication and Informatics, Rudiantara. One name. Distinguished, and I would say veteran, Indonesian Ambassador to the U.S., Pak Soni, who we have worked with together for many years and hope he stays many years in the future. Chairman of Indonesia's Financial Authority, Wimbo Santoso, Deputy, you may wish to hold your applause till the end because there's a long list. Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, Patrick Murphy, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense, Joseph Felcher, Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Robert Kaproth, Singaporean Ambassador and Mrs. Mirpuri, also a very close friend of Indonesia, not sure how many years, but probably 10 or 12 years served in Indonesia. Burmese Ambassador and Mrs. Uong Lin, Philippine Ambassador Romualdez, the former U.S. ambassadors to Indonesia, starting with USINDO's U.S. co-chair, Bob Blake, who will be speaking later tonight, and Ambassadors Manjo, Gelbard, Barry, Pasco, and Hume. Welcome, you all. Senator J. Bennett Johnston, a member of our Board of Advisors and a close friend. USINDO co-founder Aline Masters, without whom USINDO would not be possible. Thank you, Aline. Distinguished other corporate and business leaders and all USINDO friends here tonight, I thank you all for joining us for this special evening. And I would remind, if you're wondering, please start on your salad course. I'd now like to recognize and give special thanks to our donors listed in your program who made this event possible. On this case, please hold your applause till the end, because again, there are a lot of them. At the platinum level, Bank Central Asia, the Boeing Company, Chevron, Freeport McMoran, F. Chapman Taylor. At the gold level, Caterpillar, ExxonMobil, the Huffington Foundation, Stanley Weiss. At the silver level, Artha Graha Paduli, ConocoPhillips, McLarty Associates, Mitsubishi Corporation Americas, RTI International. Our benefactors, Dr. John Byer, formerly president of Nathan Associates, Citi, Coca-Cola, Ethan Allen Global, Gilead Sciences Incorporated, Liquid Robotics, doing some very interesting work in Indonesia, McCormick and Company, the spice company. Who would have thought that spices came from Indonesia, right? They're here tonight. We welcome them. Philippa Zanoiden and Kyle Lamarchi. Thank you all for supporting this dinner and USINDO's work. I'd now like to move to introduce our first speaker, Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, John Rood. Secretary Rood serves as the principal advisor to the Secretary of Defense on defense policy. He leads the formulation and coordination of national security policy within the Department of Defense and oversees integration of defense policies and plans to achieve desired objectives. He also must have his hands full from this description. He is also responsible for building partnerships and defense cooperation with U.S. friends such as Indonesia, and I know that's of interest to all of us, and not least Pak Luhut. He has over 3 decades of public and private sector experience, including over 20 years in the U.S. government at the Department of State and Defense, the National Security Council, as an analyst at the Central Intelligence Agency, and as a senior policy advisor to Senator John Kyle in the U.S. Senate. Secretary Rood, we appreciate your presence, and we invite you to give your remarks now. Thank you.